Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Ancient Warriors Sealed Only. This is actually episode 15, and what a wait it's been, right? Kept you waiting.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Anyway, besides that, there's a lot of changes that are happening not only to the channel, but also to this video format. This is actually going to be the end of Season 1 of the Ancient Warriors series, and as we continue to pick it back up, Season 2 is going to have a lot more theatrics in it, a lot more surprises, and of course, a lot more cards. Now, in regards to the time that has passed between episode 14 and this current episode, we've actually gained a lot of cards through some very special sealed only special episodes. Emphasis on the special there. I encourage you to go check some of those other episodes out, as there's also some extra cards that we've been able to not only add to our Ancient Warrior deck, but to some of our other decks as well. I'll leave links to all of the sealed only special episodes, which again include cards that we've been able to gain in between the time frame of episode 14 and this current episode, which is episode 15. Again, as you probably also noticed, is that Rise of the Duelist is currently out. However, we're going to be opening a pack, or rather a box, of Eternity Code. This is a much earlier video that I've really been sitting on, and for reasons which I'm going to explain right now, we're actually going to dive into why there's been a big gap. So in between episode 14 and 15, it was supposed to be an episode where I had showcased me opening up my very first Starlight Rare, which was Time Thief Perpetua. Now, unfortunately, I did lose the recording footage for this.
You what?
And this kind of put me in a slump, and I didn't really feel like making any more sort of like sealed only videos because I had just lost that footage. It was the first Starlight Rare I ever pulled, and I really just didn't feel, you know, the excitement of just making another video and dismissing the fact that I had gotten my first Starlight Rare. So I sat on that for a few weeks, and weeks turned into a month, and then a month turned almost into 2.5 months, and now we're back. But thankfully, there are a lot of upcoming events. Rather, there's a lot of upcoming packs, product, and sort of support not only for Ancient Warriors, but for Beast Warriors as a whole, which will be included and will be talked about in the next season of Sealed Only. So today's video is going to really just be an overview of where we are at currently. We're going to open up some Eternity Code, and we're also going to look at the deck as it stands right now and what changes we're going to be making as we intend on moving forward. Like I mentioned before, there is a lot of product that we are going to have to open. There's still a lot of support that we need for the current deck, but there's also, thanks to Rise of the Duelist, there's also an enormous amount of support that's come out in between the time. So I'm going to actually stop talking right here. Again, I encourage you to check out all those sealed only special episodes, so that way you can be caught up on all of the cards that we've pulled, that the Ghost Trick Gal has pulled, and that we've gotten or maybe received. And with that being said, let's jump right into opening the packs. Alright, so we have a box here of Eternity Code, and we need to try to see if we can get Zhuge Kong. We're still looking for him, as well as Access Code Talker, and I believe that's pretty much it. Thankfully, the Ghost Trick Gal was able to open up some of the cards that we did need, so we're just going to take from that pile and see what we can get in this box for today. So, got about 12 packs to open. We're only going to open up half of this for today, and then we'll jump into some duels. So I'll take out one half of this, and I'll leave the other half over here. In the meantime, while I'm opening these packs, make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and let's see what we can get. Okay, first pack's up. Again, I'll take the back 4, move them up here, and let's see. First card, we have Beast King Barbaros, King Beast Barbaros, Bluebeard, Thunder Dragon Dragon Lord, Pride of the Plunder Patrol, Proxy F Magician, Stairs of Mail, Golden Hair Pirate, and another Bubble Reef. Moving on to the second pack, let's see what we get this time. I'm going to take the 4 from the back. Again, I don't necessarily feel as if taking out the super rares was something that I kind of agree with, but I I'm not the one making the decision, and I think that, you know, there are some good cards that we can get out of here. Magical Hound is actually one of them. I'll move that over there. But overall, there's really nothing really useful. Jia Wen, we'll be able to hold on to him. We'll move that over, and there we go. Our first ultra rare Traptrix Allomirus, a card that we were looking for. And this actually is going to go into our side deck along with some of the other cards that we do have as well. But very nice to pull the Traptrix Allomirus. Seeing if we can get another ultra rare out of this set. Take this, move it over. And it's really honestly just good to be back. I think that that's the biggest thing here. I haven't made a sealed only episode in weeks now, probably about a month, Noctovision Dragon. And again, it's really just good to jump back into this older content and see if we can make some more things for you guys. Rose Girl. Again, like I said, the card that we're looking for is Zhuge, which is one of the only other ultra rares, I believe. Unless he's a super rare. If he is, then it's Sao De that becomes the ultra rare. So we're looking for Zhuge. Hopefully we can pull him. I hope that he's not short printed, but if he is, then that will be, woo, there we go. All right, so we got one of them, one Zhuge, and we will do a deck update pretty soon just to keep people up to date on what the deck is looking like. But that's one down, two of the cards that we do necessarily need. If I can just pull another one of him, then that's it. I don't even really feel as if I need to open up the rest of these packs. I'll probably actually end up giving some of them away if we actually don't need anything. Tauti Dragon Parallel Exceed, really good. Hold on to that. Red Familiar, don't necessarily need it. We also are kind of looking for a Nemesis Protos, but we'll hold on to that. Crimson Resonator, this, and Red Rain, it will be our super rare. Gonna continue moving on. We should pull one of the secret rares if the box is not mapped. Or if it is mapped, then yeah, we should pull one of the secret rares. There should be a secret rare on this side of the box. Again, getting an access code talker would be extremely clutch for us to pull, but we'll have to see if this type of deck does want us to get it. Malice of Lament, again for that dark lair deck, but we're not running a lair deck, so that's not really good for us. But we did get the Zhuge and we got an Allomirus, two cards that we definitely can use. So we'll have to see what else we can get. In regards to Eternity Code, there really aren't that many things that are, I guess, that are good for us. Borrowing of Arrows will actually hold on to, as well as Zhang Yuan. And I'm actually saying that now, like saying there aren't really that many good cards for us, but we're pulling a lot of good things. Witchcrafter Patronus is going to be our card here. And again, some other cards for other decks that definitely need their support. About four more packs left. Again, we're going to try to see what we can get, mainly hoping that we do pull another Parallel Exceed. We'll hold on to that. High Wraith, and Emblem of the Plunder Patrol. So that'll be our second ultra rare, along with Traptrix Allomirus. Those are the two ultra rares that we were able to pull so far. But we do definitely need to get a secret rare, and hopefully the secret rare that we do pull, I'm kind of hoping that it's not Adamodorn Archosaur. I hope that it is Access Code Talker. That would be clutch. We need this man. We need him for the deck, just because we are still able to summon some higher rank level 4s, some link rating for monsters. But there are also ideas that we're thinking about for the future of the deck in regards to some cards that we may or may not keep or take out. There's a new sort of build that I'm working on right now, and we'll see how well that build works with the current meta. But what that kind of does require is that I do get another Fist of the Gadgets. So we'll see what happens. If we decide to make that build, then it'll be something that we'll have to think about as we are getting closer and closer to Rise of the Duelist coming out. But we'll have to see at the end of it, like what deck is looking like in its current state. Again, if we are able to get that second Zhuge, we are looking for the second Zhuge. But if we're not able to get it, then this might not be it. So Plunder Patrol Lease is actually going to be our secret rare, and unfortunately it is not the card that we are looking for. So we can only hope that the other side, or rather for the other episode, that we'll pull the cards that we need. But I think after we're done with this pack, we're going to do a quick little deck update just to keep everybody up to date on the cards that we have pulled and what. So let's do a little bit of a recap, shall we? So in our actual Ancient Warrior deck, some of the cards that we were looking at, or rather some of the cards that we did have, we were running 2 Kaijus, we had 2 Dangers, we had 1 Ghost Ogre, and 2 Ashes, right? Those were most of the non-Ancient Warrior cards that we decided to run. Now we're also running 2 Zhang Does. For the Ancient Warriors, we have 2 Guan Yuns, 1 Lu Jing, we have Zhou Gong at a 2, we have 3 Liu Xuans currently. We also have 3 Sun Mo's as well. Now, like I mentioned before, some of these cards are going to be taken out. Some of the Ancient Warrior cards are going to be taken out, but some of the extra deck, or rather extra cards, are also going to be removed as well. Looking at our sort of spells, going into our spells, we have the 2 Tensus that we're still going to keep, so that's not going to change. We have our 3 Tenkis that we definitely need. We have 3 visits. Alright, we've only been able to get 1 for now. 1 Sun Liu Alliance. We have 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Super Polys, 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Monster Reborn, Mind Control. And then finally onto our traps, of course, we only run 2 different types of traps, 3 of them being the Changban Bridge, and then 2 of them being Royal Decree. So if we're looking at this, we're kind of going to have to evaluate most of our deck, most of our extra deck, and then most of our side deck as we continue to move forward. So this is going to be the deck building part, and there will be a little timestamp down in the description if you guys just want to jump forward into the part where we actually are dueling people. So first off, let's actually look at our side deck, because a lot of these cards that are in here are actually going to be coming out right now. Primarily the Fire Fist cards, we're going to take them out and just move them to the side for now, and sort of save them for an eventual or hopeful idea that we may or may not have. We're also going to take out Union Carrier, because we don't necessarily run Buster Whelp or Buster Sword, so we can't really use it to help us out. Sayusha's staying, Twin Twisters, Dark Ruler No More. I feel like those are all good cards that we need to have stay in, as well as Pankratops in permanents, which we do actually have 2 of. Abominable Unchained Soul, Nibiru, and another Lu Jing. So with this, our extra deck is actually at 9 cards. So we'll actually have to add some more into that, or rather our side deck's at 9 cards. Looking at our extra deck, however, we are also going to be taking out some cards here. We'll keep in the Furious, the Starving Venom, the Xuan, and the Earth Golem, all as really good Super Poly targets. Since we are still running tuners, for the sake of it, we'll have Black Rose stay in for now. But the eventual thing is to actually get Black Rose out of there as well. Light Dragon at Ignister is staying, both Tiger Kings are staying, Tornado Dragon and Honor Arc is all staying in here. We're also keeping in here our Borreload, our Knightmare Cerberus, our Daruma, and our LANphorhynchus, which means that, again, the only other cards that we are taking actively out of the extra deck are Fire Fist Eagle and Fire Fist Peacock. Now, the cards that we are going to have to eventually side in are going to be some of these. So we have 2 3 visits, which need to go into the main deck. We have 1 Borrowing of Hours, which we're actually going to put in our side deck right here. So this is going to be the side deck. So Borrowing of Hours is actually going to go straight over there. We have 1 Zhuge Kong. We still need 1 more, so he's going to go into the main deck. Cao Da, or Cao Da, is going to go into the side deck. Our 2 Zhang Yuans are going into the main deck, as well as Jia Wen. Then we have a rarity upgrade, which is our Abyss Dweller, which is going to go straight into the extra deck. And then some of the other cards, Clear Wing, Crystal Wing actually, we're actually going to hold off on this, and we'll put him over there, sort of like with the rest of these Fire Fist cards. Dragite, Wolfhoven, and Big Eye, both of these 2 will go straight into the extra deck. And then for our Dragite, we'll also hold off on this, at least until we get the variant, the sort of other variant that we've been sort of working on the side. So let's look at the cards that we are going to have to take out. I'll probably just speed through this part of the clip, just so that way you guys can see some of the cards. And then when we come back, we'll do another sort of deck video just to talk about like what the deck's going to look like in total. Alright, so our current main deck, let's take a quick look at that. We actually have all of our monsters laid out. So for our current main deck profile, we have one Zhuge, we're running one Guan, one Valiant Zhang. We're actually putting in the two Zhang Yuans and keeping in our Jing, as well as one Jiawen. We're also running one Zhou Gong, so we've actually limited our sort of assisting cards to 4 with the Jing, the Zhou Gong, the Deceptive Jiawen, and the Zhuge, which will now be added in. Moving on to some of the other cards, we've actually limited our Liu Xuans down to 2 because we don't necessarily need 3 of him. In fact, the only Ancient Warrior that we do need 3 of course, is our Masterful Sun Mo. Now moving on to some of the non-Ancient Warrior support cards, it kind of leaves us with only a few, so we don't necessarily have to overthink, but we are running the 2 Ash Blossoms and the 2 Gameciels. We also do have an extra Zhuge, but I think for the sake of this, I'm actually going to replace it with Ghost Ogre just in case. Moving on to the spells, we have 1 Borrowing of Arrows. We finally have our 3 visits. Our 1 Sun Liu Alliance, which we are still going to keep in here, even if we do get Red Cliffs. We are going to get 2, or rather 3 Tenkis, and there may be a future sort of rarity upgrade for one of these in the future. We also have our 2 Tensus, 1 Mind Control, 1 Monster Reborn, Called by the Grave, 2 Super Polys, and 2 Cosmic Cyclones. Then finally, again, moving on to our traps, running 2 Royal Decrees and 3 Defense of Changban. So with all of that keeping into our monsters, we're actually limited at our 40. Our extra deck is actually going to look a little bit different. We'll start off with the links first. We have LANphorhynchus for Mind Control, of course, Firefighting Daruma, Knightmare, and Borreload Dragon. Moving on to some of the exceeds that we do have, we have our Honor Arc, which we're still keeping in. Most of them are rank 4s, Tornado Dragon, limiting our Tiger King down to 1, and then adding our Light Dragon at Ignister. We've also rarity upgraded our Abyss Dweller, as well as adding in a Big Eye with the potential chance of summoning him if we do essentially get Guan or a Zhang on the field. Because most of our cards are 4 stars and we do have some 3-star tuners in here, we are still keeping Black Rose. And then for our 4 fusion cards, of course, our Super Poly targets, we have Xuan, Earth Golem, Starving Venom, and Borreload Furious. Moving on to the side deck now, we do have a kind of mixture of cards here, but we are having the 1 Sao De. We're putting in the 1 Twin Twisters as well, and then we have Dark Ruler No More, Downer Wrestler Pankratops, 2 Infinite Impermanence. We're still running Abominable Unchained Soul, which is one of the cards that we had from the get-go. We also have Nibiru, Eccentric Jing, and then we are also going to finish off again with our Liu Xuan, our second Guan, our Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King, Hope Woven, Spider Shark, and Saryusha's Skull Dread. I know that this is actually over 15 cards, so we are essentially going to end up taking, I believe, one of them out. If I were to choose right off the bat, it would probably be Unchained Soul. He's kind of stayed with us for a while, but we don't necessarily need another one. We actually don't need another Liu Jing, so looking at this, this gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It actually seems as if I can add 2 more cards into there, and I don't think that there's anything that we would necessarily want to grab from here just yet. But we'll probably just end up putting in, looking at here, I think I'll probably add Zhou Gong again, and then a Zhang just in case. So the cards that we have currently taken out of the deck are as followed: 1 Liu Jing, both of our Dangers, which are now currently taken out, which will go into other decks that they can assist in. Adamancipator Risen Drag type, which we're going to hold on to. Crystal Wing Synchro, Fire Fist Eagle, and Peacock. We also have our Union Carrier, and then the rest of our Fire Fist, Ram, Rooster, and our 2 Spirits. So that's going to kind of do it for this part of the deck building, sort of changing aspect of it. And let's swipe over and see how we do on some virtual duels. Alright, so we have the first of 3 games that we're going to be showcasing today. The first one is against Demand's Jaheen. I'm going to start this duel off by choosing to go second, and we're just going to take a little bit of a moment to appreciate the Sly Cooper sleeves as well as the Axel Brody profile picture. Shoutouts to Pain and Volcanics. Hopefully they do get some support in the new set that is going to be announced very soon. This man starts off by first summoning out Ancient Warrior. He's actually playing Grandmaster Ninja Hanzo. It's weird because it's a deck that works on sort of the ancient Asian history. However, he's using ninjas, I'm using ancient Chinese warriors, and we're going to really see how these two decks then fight off against each other. He adds a decoy to his hand with Hanzo's effect, but I'm not sure if decoy is the card that he set face down. So just in case it's a transformation, we're going to go for mind control and take control of Hanzo. That's going to allow us to then freely summon out our Sunmo just in case he had super transformation. And looking at my hand, I can probably go into some sort of Exceed to get rid of his back row. But I think the best plan, or rather the best course of action, is to go for Zhuge. Now, I also want to state that I really need to forgive myself for dismaying, or rather disavowing, this card earlier on when the Ancient Warriors were first coming out. I did not think that Zhuge was a very good card, and I've actually come to realize that in the future builds that are going to happen with this deck, Zhuge is not only necessary, but it's one of the best sort of extenders for the entire Ancient Warrior combo. So we're going to take control of his Hanzo, thankfully we had it, and we're going to exceed it over, rather we're going to overlay it with one of our monsters, our Zhuge, and that's going to allow us to go into Tornado Dragon. Because we don't have double Dragon Lords, or formerly known as Big Schlong, we won't be able to go into him and then search for another monster. So instead, our best bet is to then have something to get rid of his backfield. I'll end up setting Super Poly after attacking with both Tornado Dragon and Ancient Warrior Sunmo. So we're leaving him at 4100. If I do attack again, that will be another 3900, so we'll have to do an additional 100 points of attack. Thankfully though, we do have Sunmo in our hand, or rather on our field, so we are going to be able to go for something. Now I end up activating Changban Bridge upon his attack. He ends up then activating Ego Boost, which is going to give White Ninja an extra additional 1000 attack points, and it's going to really just make it still continue to attack for our Tornado Dragon. So we're going to take about 400 damage here, but that's not really the thing that I'm looking for. I think the thing that we want to do is just set up our turn, or rather our next turn, by getting out another Ancient Warrior on the field. So we're going to go for Xuan, and he still has the ability to either replay the battle and choose a different target, but he's going to go for Tornado Dragon again, thankfully, because you cannot attack any of the Ancient Warriors when both Xuan and Sunmo are both on the field. Main phase 2 and end phase happens with White Ninja looking us down at 1500 attack points, and now we basically get to decide how exactly we're going to get rid of him. We're going to get rid of our second Super Poly, activating the effect of Sunmo, which is searching for Zhang, which will allow me to then activate his effect, because since I do have two Ancient Warriors with different attributes on the field, I can special summon him. This will also then chain into Sunmo's effect, which will allow me to bounce White Ninja back to Jahim's hand, and then we are able to then go in for our final attack, both doing 1800 and again an additional 2700, thus giving us our first win. Now, we're going to go into our second game and see the myriad of sort of what, or rather the duality of what a good duel is versus what a potential bad duel for myself can be. So we're going to go up against Gabriel, and we're going to see what we can do based on how good the Ancient Warriors are with the type of incomplete sort of state that the deck is in. Now, by all means, this is probably one of the best hands that I've ever been able to draw. Not only getting 2-3 visits, but also having Tenki in my hand, which will allow me to go for something. However, we are facing off against Orcus, Mech Knight, Orcus, Dingirsu, Orcus, Mech Knight, etc. So it's one of those decks where we're going to really just have to wait and see which type of version this type of playstyle is. Now, Gabriel is actually running more of the Mech Knight World Legacy format, so we're not going to see too many orchestrated cards come out. However, the Mech Knights themselves do pose a very, very real threat in the fact that they can, again, move around the monster zones and prevent me from doing certain things. So after summoning out Girsu, he then goes for Lib, the World Key Playmaster, while also giving me a token and setting another card that is also aligned in my Link zone. Again, for anybody that is unfamiliar playing Mech Knights or has never played against Mech Knights, the way that they sort of function is they more or less utilize the main monster zones as well as the main spell and trap card zones to prevent an opponent from doing something that they could possibly do during their turn. In what that looks like is that Gabriel is going to actually have the ability to sort of lock down not only his Link zone, but also lock down my Link zone by playing cards within those specific zone areas. As you can see, we have two Mech Knights that are in the area in which the Link zones are represented, as well as two face down cards, which are also lined up there as well. And then we have this floating card here, the 2400, which has the ability to move across sort of the main monster zones, which can then activate other various effects. So after summoning a myriad of monsters, I'm kind of worrisome for the fact that I don't know if Dingirsu is going to show up. However, again, this is not necessarily an Orcus deck. This is more of a Mech Knight deck. But it is interesting how the Orcus, the Mech Knight, the World Legacy, all of those cards are all still chained together. It would be interesting if we did get some sort of Konami official sort of like book or grimoire based on the lore of the cards. So after linking off most of his cards, he ends up summoning Avermax, and now it is our turn, and we definitely need to see what we can do based off of a field that is fairly heavy. We're going to start off first with Fire Formation Tenki, hopefully baiting out some sort of searcher, or rather hand trap that he could have. And luckily, luck is within our favor, and we do get rid of Ash Blossom. Now it's going to be up to us to then activate another card to potentially see what we can do. We're going to end up going for Ancient Warriors 3 visits, and thankfully we do have 2 of them, so just in case it does get destroyed, whether he has Cosmic Cyclone or not, we don't necessarily have to worry about it. Now we're going to start off first by then also activating the Sunliu Alliance, which is going to hopefully allow us to prevent a card from being activated based on where its position is, or based on how many Ancient Warriors we do have. Now 3 visits it's going to then activate, which is actually going to chain into World Legacy Secret. That's going to allow him to get back the card again that is able to actively move across the zones. And what that's going to mean is that we are not necessarily going to be able to do much based on what is on the field and what we can possibly do. Now, there is an alternative to this duel, and watching this back really makes me realize that I could have done so much more in regards to getting rid of the monsters. Instead of going for Zhuge Kong, I most likely should have just went for Zhang Yuan. That would have allowed me to at least get rid of 2 cards on the field, with the potential of Zhang Yuan reducing one of his monsters' attacks by 1,000. So we could have gotten rid of Jack Knight, or we could have gotten rid of, not necessarily Avermax, but we could have gotten rid of the other card that's in front of the trap card, or the trap card itself. Instead, I'm going to then activate Zhuge Kong's effect, and this is where I should have used the effect of the Sunliu Alliance, because now that I do have 2 Ancient Warriors with different attributes, I actually can negate the effects of any attribute of the monsters that is on the field. So we currently have water, wind, and light monsters, and doing so would actually allow me to negate the effects of any light monsters that were on the field during this turn. It would also then give my monsters an added boost, but I'm really more or less looking to the boost of attack points and not to the secondary effect. So as always, read your cards. Reading is extremely fundamental, especially in duels of this type. So in this sort of contemplative state, I'm going to sort of chain off into my Sunmo's effect. However, it is going to be negated thanks to the trap card, and I'm not going to chain into the Sunliu Alliance, which is again the card that I should be necessarily using. Now, it does ask me if I want to activate the Sunliu Alliance's secondary effect, which is to summon, or rather, which is to make my Ancient Warriors gain 300 attack based on how many Ancient Warriors I do have on the field. Unfortunately, though, we don't end up going for that, and instead, we kind of just realize, okay, I got to get rid of the trap card, so how do I do that? So instead, I'm most likely going to link off, but I could link off into Daruma. However, Daruma is actively in front of his Mech Knight Red Moon's effect, or rather his Mech Knight Red Moon's position, so doing so would just give that a quick negate. So instead, my best course of action is to either go for something like Tiger King, or to go for something like Light Dragon. I'm going to end up linking, or rather exceeding them both off. And again, this was not the best decision to make, and as a result, I will be chaining into Tiger King's effect, which is going to activate Indigo Eclipse's effect to then move straight in front of its position, and that will negate my monster's effect as well. I can activate his effect again just to activate for cost, and that's just going to send the card that I have to the graveyard. And in realizing that, I realized that I also could have just activated Sunmo's effect, sending my 3 visits for cost, and then allowing myself to summon Liu Xuan from my hand. That would have then allowed me to then go for as many attacks as I could have wanted, and it also would have locked down the field, thus disabling any attacks, or rather any incoming attacks. But again, unfortunately, the added effect of not reading one's cards is, as always, the main reason why most people, in my opinion, tend to lose their duels. So it's not only a matter of being knowledgeable on the cards that you play, it's also being knowledgeable as to what the current metagame is running. And even for rogue decks, or seemingly rogue decks like Mech Knights, you also want to make sure that you are always on top of any type of sort of added effect or added type of playstyle that is not necessarily seen as commonly as some of the most played decks. So there's a myriad of moves that are happening here. As you guys will probably realize, we do not win this duel, but again, it is just another hard lesson to learn in regards to not only building up a competitive, or rather a competent sealed only deck, but also realizing that there is a lot that comes into this game as a whole, and there's a lot of learning that we need to do. So even though this isn't the last duel that we're going to be having on here, this is kind of just another lesson as to what we are possibly going to interact with, not only at the end of this season, but also when we do start season 2 towards the end of this month. Our last duel for today is going to be against Younger Hero, and it's really going to be another one of those telltale signs that this deck is not necessarily at its state where it can run efficiently, just based off of the hand that I have. This is most likely, or rather, this is kind of one of the worst hands that I possibly could have been given. Granted, we do have Mind Control and we do have Cosmic Cyclone, but keep in mind, Mind Control is actually limited to 1, so had we not drawn Mind Control, there really wouldn't be any out that we could have. Plus, if Younger Hero decides to summon a card that is untargetable, then our hand is more or less moot. Thankfully, however, it seems as if they're running a sort of Synchron deck, so we're expecting to see some sort of Junk Synchron, Access Synchron, heavy Synchro summoning that is going to happen. And fortunately for us, there aren't many Synchro cards that can negate monsters' effects, or technically the ones that can are fairly generic in their playstyle. However, seeing the fact that Synchrons can still build fields where they can summon multiple monsters on one turn kind of does make me wonder if a Synchron heavy deck would actually be much better off running more Link heavy cards, or whether or not the Synchro playstyle is still viable. Summoning Junk Synchron, then syncing with it with Junk, I believe, Warrior. No, not necessarily Junk Warrior, but syncing with it with another card to summon Junk Speeder. We now have a 5-star tuner, as well as a 5-star monster, as well as a 1-star tuner with Jet Synchron. However, we are going to activate Junk Speeder's effect, which is going to bring back Junk Synchron. That's going to allow him to go into an easy 8-star monster, or it could potentially allow Younger Hero to summon something additional, depending on what they have. Now, Road Warrior is going to then come out, as well as, I believe that's Steam Synchron and Fleur Synchron as well. And just looking at this field, this kind of, again, just makes me realize, you know, if this was a very heavy Link deck, this would be someone's worst nightmare. Just the ability to get out 5 monsters consistently on your main monster zones, with the added, obviously, withdrawal of having cards in your extra monster zone. You could go for any rank 4 or any rank 5 monster that you really wanted to. However, younger hero is going to summon out Stardust Dragon and then use Junk Archer as well, just in case. So looking at this field, we've actually drawn into one of the easiest win conditions for Ancient Warriors, and it also kind of goes into a thought that we're going to have to introduce once we start Season 2. However, our biggest obstacle to get over right now is, of course, the back row. So thankfully, running Cosmic Cyclone will not trigger into Stardust Dragon's effect, but it will allow him to sync row summon into Satellite Warrior. Now, we do thankfully have Mind Control, and it doesn't seem like Younger Hero has any cards in their hand. So my best course of action is actually not only to get rid of Satellite Warrior, but also to get rid of Stardust Dragon and potentially leave maybe Xuan on the field for this last sort of part of the turn. And how am I going to do that, you might ask? Well, that's going to be with the card that we just got out of Eternity Code, Borrowing of Arrows. Because you see, Borrowing of Arrows allows me to target one face-up monster and take half of its attack and add that half into my Ancient Warrior. And luckily enough, we do have an Ancient Warrior on the field in the form of Ancient Warrior, or rather Ancient Warrior Tactician, Jing. Activating Borrowing of Arrows, we're going to take from Stardust, which will give us 1,250 attack points to our additional 700, thus keeping us at 1,950. We're going to allow us to go into the battle phase and run over Stardust Dragon, while also allowing us to sort of have another monster on the field that we can then link off into Knightmare Cerberus. We could have gone for LANphorhynchus, but I think having Knightmare Cerberus on the field is a little bit more necessary for us to use, or rather for us to utilize our turns. We're going to get rid of the Sun Liu Alliance, just as a result of not having any Ancient Warriors. I don't necessarily need it on the field. Thankfully though, it doesn't seem like there is anything that they can do, so they draw into a card, and just for sort of safety measure, we're going to attack first before we summon, just to see what the face down card is, and lo and behold, it is none other than Scrap Iron Scarecrow. So this must be some sort of Yusei sort of character based deck. However, most of the cards that are utilized, or rather could be utilized for summoning, are thankfully in the graveyard. We're going to set down our Super Polymerization, and we're just going to end our phase because there's no point in attacking since we only have one monster on the field. Now we're going to have to really just gauge to see what are the potential cards that are being played face down. We do know that Scrap Iron Scarecrow is in the middle position, so that is the main card that we are going to have to look out for. But thankfully, drawing into 3 visits will allow me to then get more of the Ancient Warrior cards that I do necessarily need. And we're going to go for Ancient Warrior Zhuge, thus activating its effect upon being searched by another Ancient Warrior card. That will allow us to special summon him. Now, I don't necessarily have to worry about any face down cards because of what we do have. We're going to run into our attack with Knightmare Cerberus, hopefully baiting out the Scrap Iron Scarecrow. That's going to be fine. We don't necessarily need to answer, or rather chain that into our Zhuge because we can negate it. That's not the card that I'm worried about. It's really the other 2 face downs that I am more or less looking out for, because I don't want him to summon any other cards. So it looks like he ends up going for King's Consonance, which is going to allow him to banish 1 tuner monster from any graveyard and then sort of synchro summon based off of that. And that's something that we really absolutely cannot allow to happen. So we are going to then chain off our Zhuge Kong's ability, thus negating the effect. Now, I believe that I do send Borrowing of Arrows to the graveyard. I should not send 3 visits, but instead I foolishly send 3 visits to the graveyard because I'm unsure whether or not I am going to get another Ancient Warrior. I really should have just left it there, because having it there on the field would have then allowed me to go for something else. I'm going to set another bait card face down, which is going to be Tensu, which is going to leave me with no cards in my hand, and it's instead going to allow us to look at what is potentially being played there. So Scrap Iron Scarecrow is on the field. Doppel Warrior is going to go straight into the graveyard to summon out Quick Draw Synchron. Quick Draw Synchron, not necessarily the best card to have on the field, can't really do much at this turn, and thankfully it seems like Younger Hero realizes that, and they also end, or rather surrender, preemptively. Well, it looks like we finally reached the end of Season 1 of Ancient Warriors Sealed Only. Do not fret, this is not the end, but I do just want to give a big shout out and appreciation to everybody that I've been able to meet and interact with throughout this entire first season of Sealed Only. I've gone to locals again. I've been able to sort of get back into tournaments. I've also met various and numerous Yu-Gi tubers, both in the community that are closer to me and some of them that do not even live within the same country. So it's been a very, very sort of engaging experience, and I'm so excited to get ready and get started on season 2. There's so much more that's going to be happening. There's so many more characters that are going to be sort of introduced into this series as well. So without me giving any spoilers away, again, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys all for staying in the know. Stay till the end for a really cool outro, and aside from that, I will catch you guys all in season 2, which should be announced towards the end of this video.